Okay, hello everyone. Okay, so the next program is a fat gram calculator. Um, the program, actually, this program. Well, before that, I hope everyone's doing well. Yesterday I was talking a bit too much in the program. That was because I was in a conversational mood, if that's a word, and that's why I was talking like that. But hey, I'll try to calm it down today. Okay, so this program is a fat gram calculator, and when I looked at this program, I because I don't know a lot about all the calories and the calculation, how to find what, I really don't have a picture of. I don't have, and I can't. There's no way I can check to see if the values are correct. But we are going to create the program as you know the way the program is telling us to create it. So the most important thing is you understand how to manipulate it. So if, for example, we create the program and you realize that the logic behind it, or for example, for the calculation, I'm going to use exactly what's in the question. So we're not going to have anything with the calculation itself. But if, for example, I'm not understanding the program correctly, then based on your understanding, you can tweak things around. So that's the most important thing. For you to understand it, or you understanding it, is the most important thing. So if you understand it, then you can tweak things around and change it based on how you understand it. But we're going to create the program the way the program is asking us to create it. All right. Okay. So I said I wasn't going to talk too much, and I already started. Anyway, so write a program that's going to ask the user to enter the number of calories. So that's going to be the first thing, the number of calories, and fat grams in a food. That's going to be the second thing, fat grams. The program should display the percentage of calories that come from fat. And the percentage of calories that come from fat, they've given us the formula, so we don't have to worry about it. The percentage of that's the formula here, but we'll get to it. It says 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. Therefore, calories from fat is equal to fat grams times 9. Again, I don't know all these calculations. I don't even understand all the calculation behind it. But we are going to just do it as the program is saying. It also says here the percentage of calories from fat can be calculated as follows. Another formula here. Now, if the calories from fat are less than 30% of the total calories of the food, again, I don't know all these calculations. I don't understand the logic behind it. But again, we're going to write the program just as the program is saying. We're going to create an if statement here and do it exactly as the program is saying. So if the calories from fat are less than 30% of the total calories of the food, it should also display a message indicating the food is low in fat. That we can do. We can create an if statement and display a message. We can do that. Over here it says note. Let me try to put a line break here. Oops. All right. So it says note. The number of calories from fat cannot be greater than the total number of calories in the food item. If the program determines that the number of calories from fat is greater than the number of calories in the food item, it should display an error message indicating that the input is invalid. So we can do that too, although I don't understand the logic behind all these calories. So without confusing you or talking too much, let me just start the program. So I'll go ahead and create the class, and I'll call it fat gram calculator. And then I'll create the main method. Okay, now we're going to be accepting input. So I'm going to be using the scanner for this one. I think yesterday I used the scanner too. All right, today I'm going to use the scanner, and then maybe next time I'll switch between a JOption pane. Okay, so to do that, I need to import the scanner class and give this program access to it. So import java.util.scanner. And since I'm going to be using the scanner, I need to create a scanner object so I can use it. So I'm going to create a scanner object here, and I'm going to call it scanner. I'm going to connect it to, I'm going to create a new scanner object here and connect it to the system .in method, which is basically your keyboard that's going to accept whatever you type into your type on your keyboard as byte info and connect it to the scanner object, so I can use it. I can use a method in the scanner class to convert the data to whatever I need it to be. Okay, I'm going to terminate it. Now I have a scanner to work with, so we're going to follow the program just as it's asking, just as the program is asking us to do. So again, like I said, I don't understand all these calories, but we're going to do it as the program is asking us to do. That's one of the power, or one of the benefits of understanding a language. Even though you don't understand the field or the program, for example, if a doctor asks you to create a program, sorry, and you don't understand enough about medicine, you can, based on the logic or based on what the doctor is telling you, you can create the program. You have the tools to do that. So that's one beautiful thing about programming. You can basically create any program as long as the person gives you some hint or how the program wants how the person wants the program to be. All right, let me not go crazy with the talking. Okay, so I have the scanner object here. The program says write a program that asks the user to enter the number of calories. So I'm going to ask the user to enter the number of calories. So system.out.println sorry, please enter the number of calories. Oops, I type in please enter the number of calories. Okay, and for this I'm going to put into parentheses total calories, just so we don't get it confusing, because over here it said ask the user to enter the number of calories, right? But when it was using this value over here in the question, it said somewhere here, it said total calories. So I know for sure, or I'm guessing, well, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing, or I'm assuming that it's referring to this, because there's nowhere I can see total calories by itself in the question. I hope you understand me. So yeah, the number of calories that the user is going to type here is going to be referred to as total calories. Okay, all right, so we're going to ask the user to enter that, and we are going to use a scanner to basically pop out a text box that's going to, some kind of text box that's going to allow the user to type in info, and we're going to use a scanner to convert that info to a double. Okay, and we need a place to store that. Once we take the user's input and convert it to a double, we need a place to store that. So I'm going to create a double variable. Let's space it out, and I'm going to call this, because it's going to be the number of calories, so I'm going to call this number of calories. I'm going to use the program names of the names in the question, just so we don't get confused, because there's so many confusing names here, right? So let's just name it accordingly so we remember. So calories, let's see, sorry, number of calories, right? Number of, or we can even make it long names. I personally don't mind long names at all. If it's too long, you can shorten it, but just for clarity, let me just make it long so we know what we are referring to. Okay, so please bear with me here, but I personally don't mind long names. I use it in my personal programs when I'm writing them. Okay, so I'm going to name this total number of calories. Okay, so it's clear, and then we're going to store what the user is going to type converted to a double in this variable. Okay, so total number of calories. It's going to store that. It's going to store this. Okay, what the user is going to type in here, converted to a double. So now we have that. We have the total number of calories. The program wants us to also ask the user to enter fat grams in the food. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole thing and change the string to please enter the number of fat grams in the food. Okay, in the food, because it's referring to the food, because it says enter the number of calories and fat grams in a food. Yeah, sorry, that was my phone vibrating. Okay, so now we've asked the user to enter the fat grams. We need to store what the user is going to type in another variable. Okay, we are also going to use a scanner to pop out the text box. The user is going to type it in. We are going to convert that into a double, and we need a place to store it here. So we need to create another variable up here, and we are going to call that fat grams. Okay, and we're going to store what the fat grams that the user types in this variable. So now we have total number of calories in fat grams. Okay, so the program should display the percentage of calories that come from fat. That's going to be the output of the program. That's going to be the final thing the program is going to display. So let's hold on that, because we need to calculate it first. So we have one calculation here. Calories from fat is going to be equal to fat grams times 9. Okay, so we can create a variable and call it, it's going to be a double because that number can be a decimal. Okay, we don't want to restrict it to an integer. So double calories from fat here. And the question gave us the formula. So calories from fat over here is going to be equal to fat grams times 9. So calories from fat is going to be equal to fat grams, we already have it here, times 9. So now we have the calories from fat. And the program also gave us another formula over here. The percentage of calories from fat can be calculated as follows. If you realize the question says the program should display the percentage of calories that come from fat. And they are giving us the formula over here. Calories from fat over here. The percentage of calories from fat can be calculated as follows. Calories from fat divided by total calories. Now, total calories is the total number of calories that the user enters here. So now we can go ahead and calculate the percentage of calories from fat. So we need a place to store that too. Even though when we do this calculation, even though we can calculate it, we need a place to store it. So let's create another variable and name it the whole thing, long names, just for clarity. So although that's perfectly fine, I do that in my program. So I'm going to create another variable and I'm going to call it percentage of calories from fat. Okay, percentage of calories from fat. Yeah, that's a long one, but it still works. So okay, so now that for that formula, percentage of the percentage of percentage of calories percentage of calories from fat is going to be equal to calories from fat divided by total calories. So calories from fat over here, let's see, hold on one second. Calories from fat, we've already calculated it. So it's going to be equal to calories from fat divided by total calories. Now the total calories is going to be total number of calories that the user entered. So it's going to be total number of calories. See, it helps when you name your variables exactly as as the content in them. Then you'll be fine when you are trying to use them elsewhere. Okay, so now we have these results, the program now has some conditions. It says if the calories from fat, which is this one, are less than 30% of the total calories of food. Okay, again, I don't understand all these food calculations, but we're going to do just as the program is saying. So if the calories from fat are less than 30% of the total calories of the food. Okay, so let's create an if statement. If, I'm going to create an if block. If the calories from fat, are less than 30% of the total calories of food. So are less than 30% is the same as 30 divided by 100. Okay. I'm going to surround these with parentheses because I want that to calculate first. I want that to take effect first. And I'm just spacing this out just so it's clear. Okay. All right. So if the calories from fat are less than 30% of the total calories of the food. So if the calories from fat is less than 30%, 30 over 100 is the same as 30%. 30% of the total calories of the food. You can write the off as a multiplication sign, 30% of the total number of calories. Okay, so we can read this just as the way the question is saying it. So if the calories from fat are less than 30% of the total calories of the food, see, if the calories from fat is less than 30%, 30% of the total number of calories, then let's see what it's saying. It should where is it? Yeah, it should also display a message indicating the food is low in fat. So okay, let's just display a message if that's the case. So system.out.println the message is the food is low in fat. Okay, so the food is low in fat. Okay. And what else? Okay, there's also a note here saying the number of calories from fat cannot be greater than the total number of calories in the food item. Okay. If the program determines that the number of calories from the fat is greater than the number of calories in the food item, it should display an error message indicating that the input is invalid. Okay. So it's talking about the number of calories from fat. It cannot be greater than total number of calories. And if that's the case, it should say input is invalid. So number of calories from fat, we've already calculated it here. So after we calculate it, we should test it before, because we calculated that, we calculated that before anything else. That's the first thing we calculated. So that's why I'm putting this if condition, if block up there. Okay, so if the program determines that the number of calories from fat, which is this one, is greater than the number of calories in the food item, which is total number of calories. So let's create the if block. Okay, I'm going to create it on top of that, and now, because that's the first thing. Because the reason why it's saying I'm doing it first is because it says we should display a message saying the input is invalid, because that's the first thing. When you run the program, the first thing that's going to pop up is the text box asking the user to enter the number of these two values, so that the program can use it to calculate this. So if this is not valid, then the program should say it right away. It shouldn't go ahead and do anything below. It should do it right away. It should just say input is invalid and stop. So that's why I'm testing this first. So if the program determines that the number of calories from fat is greater than the number of calories in the food, so if the number of calories from fat is greater than it's greater than total number of calories, Okay. Then I'm going to create the block. It should display a message saying the input is invalid, right? It says here saying that the input is invalid, so the input is invalid. Okay, let me just scroll this down a little bit. Okay, saying the food is invalid. So if that's the case, the program should end there. The way it is now, it's going to say the input is invalid and go ahead and test on this too. We need to stop that. So if this is the case, then the program should stop and say the input is invalid. So because of that, I'm going to put an else clause here. Let me just go ahead and push this down so it doesn't confuse you. Just go ahead and push this down. I'm going to go ahead and put an else clause here, and I'm going to open the block for the else clause. Okay, so if everything is fine here, then don't say the input is invalid. That means the input is valid. So go ahead, else. If this is not the case, if the input is valid here, okay, if the total number of calories is not greater than total number if the calories from fat is not greater than the total number of calories, then it's not going to say the input is valid. It's going to jump to the else clause and do whatever we put there. So if this is fine, if this is valid, if this is fine, if the program doesn't get here and say the input is invalid, then let's go ahead and do the rest of the calculation, which is going to be this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this if block, and because this block here is the entire if block. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and I'm going to paste it in the else clause. Okay, let me indent it properly so that it doesn't confuse you. Okay, all right. So if the calories from fat is greater than the total number of calories, then display the input is invalid, and then quit the program because there's nothing here to do. There's nothing here there to do. Oops. Oh boy. Okay, there's nothing there to do. So just make sure that code doesn't get confusing over there. So if the calories from fat is greater than the total number of calories, then it's going to say the input is invalid. Then it's going to skip. It's just going to skip right down here. Continue down. But if it's valid, then this whole thing is not going to count. It's going to jump straight to the else clause, jump into its block, which is here. This is the opening block, and this is the closing block, and do whatever is in here. Okay. Let me space this out. I used to do that, but I'm just trying to squeeze them together. So let me do this so that you can see clearly. This is what's in the if clause, and this is what's in the else clause. So if this is the case, if the calories from fat is greater than total number of calories, say the input is invalid, and jump straight here and end it. There's no else clause. This was true, so you said input was invalid. So don't do whatever the else clause says. Just end the program. But if the input is valid, if we don't get this message, if we don't get here, we don't get to this block, then jump to the else clause and do whatever is in the block. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and calculate if this is the case. When you jump to the else clause, and if this is the case, display the food is low in fat. If this is not the case, we are still in the else block. If this is not the case, then now the program is asking us to what the program wants us to do is just display. Program should display the percentage of the calories that come from fat. Okay, that's all the program wants us to do. We already have that in the variable, so all we have to do now is display it. Okay, so system.out. I'm going to use a printf method. Okay, and say that, okay, because the program should display the percentage of calories that come from fat. So the percentage of calories that come from fat is, okay, so I'm using the printf format to format the string. Okay, so I'm going to first put a placeholder, which is going to be a percentage f for a float, and this is a placeholder. And what is going to replace this placeholder is going to be the percentage of calories from fat. Okay, so I'm not done with this formatting. Now this is just a placeholder. This is going to replace this placeholder, but I want to format it. Okay, first of all, I want to round it to 2 decimal places because it's a percentage. I want to round it to 2 decimal places. Okay, hold on. So I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places. In between the percentage and the f, I'm going to put a 0.2 for 2 decimal places. And because I want to end the value with a percentage sign, if you put 1 percentage sign, it's going to think you are trying to create another placeholder. So I'm going to put another one to escape this, to escape one of them. So you're telling the program that I'm not trying to create another placeholder. Just escape that, and then now just display a percentage sign at the end of it. So this gets it needs a bit getting used to. Well, you need to learn about the format specifiers. Again, this is not trying to teach Java. This is just trying to solve questions. Eventually, if you guys want me to teach Java, I'll do that. But the goal of this entire series of videos is just to try to create the programs in the book, all the programs in the book. That's the goal. But eventually, if you guys want it, I'll teach it. It's something it'll be something I'll like to do. Okay, all right. So that's just for formatting, and this is going to replace this placeholder. All right, so we're done. So if the calories from fat is greater than total number of calories, then display this message: input is invalid. And don't run what is in this else clause. Just end the program. All right. But if this is not true, if this doesn't hold, and the program doesn't say the input is invalid, then that means the input is valid. So if the input is valid, then ignore this. Don't say the input is invalid. Jump straight to the else clause. Test this condition. If this is true, then display the message. And at the same time, since we are in the else block, it's going to do everything here. So check this. If this is the case, display this message, and after that, run this message. Check this. If this is not the case, ignore it. At the same time, still run this message because we are in the else clause. It's going to do everything in this, either way. And this is going to be a condition. This is whether this message is going to display is based on this condition, whether it's true or false. But either way, this is going to run if the program manages to get into this else block. Okay, so I hope I didn't talk too much over there and confuse you. I hope you understand it. All right, let me go ahead and compile it and see if we have any errors. Fix it and run it. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it FatGram Calculator, and then I'll save this here. Okay, so it compiled without any errors. I'm going to run it, and there's no way I can tell if these values are even true or not. But we're going to put in some values, and the program is going to give us results. So again, like I said before the video started, if the logic behind it is not correct, because you have an understanding of the language, you can modify it. But if it's correct, then keep it the same. That's the most important thing, that you understand it so you can change it around. But if it's correct, then let's leave it the same. Okay. All right. So please enter it. I tried it out earlier on. So I tried it with. Okay. Now let me just use random numbers. Now I'm just going to put 23. So that's for total calories, and I'm going to put 34 for fat grams in the food, and it says the input is invalid, and it stopped. So I don't know why the input is invalid. I don't understand the calculation, but the program works in this regard. I'm going to use other values. That's not going to say the program is not valid. I'm going to put 103. I did it earlier on, 103. So see, now it says the percentage of calories that come from fat is 0.27%. Now it is displaying 0.27% based on how I formatted this. Percentage F, not talking about the 0.2. The percentage F is the placeholder for a float. Now the 0.2 in between that means in this output, round it to 2 decimal places. If I said 0.3, then it will round it to 3 decimal places. If I said 0.4, then it will round it to 4 decimal places. Now these 2 percentage signs is just to display 1 percentage sign, because if I put 1 percentage sign here, it's going to think I'm about to open create another placeholder. But type in 2 is saying that I'm not trying to create another placeholder. I'm trying to just display one of them. So cancel the first one and display 1. Okay, ignore the first one and display 1. It's kind of. Okay, so now the program works. We can just try and run the values again and see if it's 45, 60. It says the input is invalid. I realize that when you type a bigger number initially, like 199 and 2, it gives you something. So it says the percentage of calories that come from fat is 0.09%. Whether or not the values are true, that I don't know, because I don't know a lot about food. But the program seems to be working, and if the logic is different, just change the values around, because as soon as you understand it, that's the most important thing. You do understand it, so you have control over it. And that's it. If you have any questions about the program, comments down below in the comment section, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I'm in the library. I'm going back to my dorm to get ready for tomorrow's class. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good night if it's nighttime there. If not, have a good day anyway, and I'll see you next time with the next program. Take care. Bye-bye.